Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're gonna take a look at my top teams video covering Ultra League on its open format. So let's see what we have here, because today we're gonna analyze, as usual of course, 4 teams in total, analyzing not only their strongest assets but also their drawbacks, their core breakers, and what you should be afraid of. Not only that, we're gonna strategize against our counters, and those teams, all these 4 teams, are gonna be extremely unique. So we're gonna start off with the first team out of the total 4, and we're gonna see that we have Cresselia up on the lead. At the back, we're gonna pair Cresselia with Registeel and Aurorus, 2 Pokemon that are afraid of fighting type Pokemon. So this is a pattern that you're gonna see a lot in Ultra League, so double fighting might be an optimal choice, but overall the reason you're seeing 2 Pokemon at the back that are gonna be weak to fighting moves is mainly because of fighters not being that good in the meta. They can still lose even against the things that they're supposed to beat. Something like a Registeel, for example, can still beat down a Poliwrath if they are not careful with those zap cannons in mind. So with that said, now let's see what we have for the first team composition, because over here we have to aggressively switch into our Registeel, draw out the fighter so that then our Aurorus will most likely have no other opponent at the back other than a double fighting. Okay, I can hear you already thinking about writing this on the comment section. With that in mind though, we're still having a lead Pokemon on the face of Cresselia. This team is extremely bulky, but with Cresselia up in front it becomes even bulkier, and what I really like about Cresselia is that it can still finish off Swampert and other water types even without having the move Grass Knot. So I do not encourage you to use Grass Knot, but if you have it, do not aim it away. Okay, if you do not have Grass Knot, you can still use this Pokemon with Moonblast, Psycho Cut, and of course Future Sight as your second charge attack, because with Future Sight you can get coverage to fire types, and you are gonna need that a lot, especially when one of these core breakers is gonna be Skeleteers. So this Pokemon is absolutely insane in the meta. I really like how well it can adapt to certain situations, but still it is gonna get walled down by some others like the rock types, and Aurorus is one of these Pokemon. However, this Pokemon is extremely good against Cresselia and Registeel, that's why it takes the spot of the core breaker. But even with that Pokemon up against you, you're gonna see that in no time this team can survive the hits and still answer back at your opponent with some heavy hitting nukes. Now it's time to take a look at the next team showcase, and guess what trainers, this is one of my favorite ones. We have Greedent here, which now has access to Mudshot for this season, and of course you're gonna see that in no time you can charge up to those body slams, to those crunches, so that you can get the upper hand over your opponents in the spammingness section. At the back, we're also gonna pair up our Greedent with Tapu Fini, which is an all-around generalist for the meta. However, it has a soul weakness that is gonna share with our lead Pokemon, and that's why we have Tentacruel here as a core breaker. How you want to play and how you want to approach the battle against the Tentacruel is to sacrifice up in front your Virizion, or at the back feel free to rotate around your Greedent, but of course Greedent is gonna be your only choice against the poison types, so just be extremely cautious of that. So with that in mind, now let's see what we have still going on here, because I really like the coverage that this team is having on the meta. Virizion is able to beat down other fighters like a Scrafty, like a Cobalion, like an Obstagoon, which is pretty great to provide extra coverage for your Greedent. And not only that, extra coverage is also being provided by your Fairy type at the back. This team is looking pretty strong, and this team is recommended by Ganeto to you trainers only because of its ability to get to those charge attacks fairly fast, and of course you still have some nukes that can surprise your opponent, like the Stone Edge from Virizion or the Moonblast for Tapu Fini. Of course, speaking of Stone Edge on Virizion, I do not recommend going for Stone Edge. Just feel free to do it if you encounter a lot of flyers up in front, but overall I still think that Leaf Blade is gonna be the better choice as your second charge attack, while Secret Sword has definitely to be your main charge attack no matter what. let's head now into an all-time classic team for Open Ultra League, and especially from the time that Cobalion came into Pokemon Go. So this team in particular is gonna lose to one thing, and perhaps a second one, which we're gonna say in a while. The first one is Crafty, the other one is Obstagoon. But for Obstagoon it feels kinda softer, so you can definitely rely on your Pokemon to finish it off with a little bit of synergy. However, on Scrafty, the fighting type is absolutely pretty good to vamp up your attack stat, actually the Scrafty's attack stat, even more with those power up punches. So that's why I think that Scrafty is gonna work pretty well, not only up against that Walrein, but also with its dark typing up against that Giratina. With that in mind though, I have to tell you and I have to share with you that Scrafty is not that much of a big threat overall. You can still play around it. You need 3 of those foul plays to feint with your Giratina, which means that in the process you are still gonna do a lot of damage with your Dragon Claws, even though you have a resisted fast attack, which is a Shadow Claw. While at the back, if you can finish it off with your back-to-back Icicle Spears, you still can rely on your Cobalion with that amazing double kick, Sacred Sword combo that you have at the back. So about Walrein, I have a Shadow here to showcase, but obviously do not go for Shadow if you have the option actually, because I'm using a Shadow only because this is a rank 1 and I was kinda lucky to get it, so why not use it for the flex? I always mention this Pokemon as a rank 1 Shadow all the time whenever I get the chance to do it, so yeah, just feel free to use the regular run if you have the option to do so. As a leader, Giratina is an absolute beast, but I recommend going with Shadow Claw over Dragon Breath because it will give you extra coverage against Cresselia and other stuff that you are gonna see in your way towards the lead options that you're gonna see in total for the Open Ultra League. As we head now into the final one trainers, you are seeing here Obstagoon as a core breaker. Much like before with that Scrafty on the core breaking option, here as well Obstagoon will core break this team pretty effectively because of its ability to have fighting moves on its arsenal. The backline is kinda weak to those fighting moves, while also you get the dark typing, which can threat that Trevenant out of existence if Trevenant is not careful at all. With that in mind now, we're gonna see though that there are still a few ways to play around this Pokemon, even a couple of Seed Bombs, even a couple of Stone Edges, or just back-to-back breaking swipes can bring any battle, any individual matchup from this team against an Obstagoon into an equal one. Also, you can always rely on your Focus Blast on the end game to potentially one-shot it down if shields are down or your opponent might actually cannot withstand the damage or expect it at all. So Trevenant up in front is gonna be able to cover all those water types that the backline is gonna be afraid of, and also it is gonna provide extra coverage for the fighters that are not dark type at all, which means no Scrafty, not Obstagoon, but instead something like a Deoxys, something like a Poliwrath. All those stuff are gonna be covered by your Trevenant. So this team is looking pretty scary with the charge attacks, to be fair, and not that much with the fast attacks, even though you have Shadow Claw and Dragon Tail on those Pokemon, because mainly the Earthquake, the Shadow Ball, or even the Focus and the Stone Edge from your Regirock can still do a lot of solid work against the meta. What I also really like about Regirock is its access to that Earthquake move that it might have, but it's gonna be Legacy at the moment, so I'm not sure if you have it or not. If you have it, feel free to try it out, but if you don't, I think that Focus Blast is still gonna be your second best charge attack overall to use for the meta, and perhaps the first one, who knows. It all depends on whatever you might have at the back, but Focus Blast is still gonna give you coverage against the dark types, which is pretty great and I really recommend to you. With that said, I think that this is gonna be all for today, and I also think that Trevenant is an absolute beast that you should definitely try out, even though Seed Bomb was nerfed past season on the Open Ultra League format. Also, thank you for watching trainers and for sticking around till the end, because most of you are not staying around till the end, and that is kind of a big bummer, and I think that you still learn a lot throughout the entirety of this video and not by just seeing and clicking on those teams just for the no information at all, just going in there and go battling without having any clue of how to use each individual team. With that said, just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, become a subscriber if you already are not one, I don't know what you're waiting for, and with that said, I have two videos for you to check out. Feel free to check them out, and I will see you all into the next one.